Yeah, so where this is in the game is that basically Jacob, Evie's twin brother, he's just killed some horrible guy in this asylum who was kind of like this horror movie crazy guy. But now there's all kinds of trouble in the city because of the medicine supplies, so we'll just see what they say in the cutscene.
Miss Fry, what a pleasant surprise.
So this is Clara. It's the child that hired you to clear all the factories from child labor.
I came to...
Are you certain you're feeling all right?
Of course, I am, Miss.
Clara! Is there a doctor nearby? Bring her inside.
There we go.
And while the doctor appears.
Oh, well, doctor appears.
So this is
She applies Inspect. It's super effective.
I should think not. Ever since Elliotson was murdered, she's been run with counterfeit tonics. This one needs proper care, but without the appropriate medication, she and the others will quickly decline. What do you need? I need supplies, plenty of them, and medicine. Some of the less common ingredients are being stolen and sold at auction. I'd be happy to help. Here's the list. Miss Fry. Evie Fry. I'm Miss Nightingale. How do you do? Please hurry. We don't have much time.
Is she left-handed? Yeah, right?
Oh crap!
Yeah,
this is
right.
One of these time.
She should be
Get the
left-handed.
cart and drive.
Uh,
Yeah, so what I think is interesting about... Go through the gate. What I think is interesting about this mission is that you have to go out of the gate.
yes, I know. This is like not
Is
like
that-
driving in real life with you next to me. Let them know where I have to go and.
And speed
So,
point and all.
okay, so what's interesting about the mission is that it reveals the sort of agency that Jacob versus Evie have throughout the main storyline of the game. So oftentimes how these chapters begin is there's some major horrible problem. Jacob goes initially to solve it, but he solves it in such a sort of crude way that it ends up creating more problems. And then Evie
what was the
tries
problem
to
here?
patch things up. So the problem here was that there was this
Forged.
there was this doctor in the asylum, and he was basically doing horrible psycho treatments with like electricity and shit, and he was a crony of the Templars, so Jacob went to murder him. But then because this main medicinal figure, even though he was bad, is taken out of control, he no longer controls the medicine market, and the market goes haywire, and people are stealing supplies, selling
Selling it on a black market.
selling it on the black market, selling medicine that
Is this
doesn't
bugged
actually
out?
do anything.
This is bugged out, isn't it?
No, you're just... You're not stealing
No,
it.
no, no.
Hold.
There was still.
but
there
now
is.
it appeared again. It was
Now
gone.
you got it.
That cost me a lot of time.
And so basically now, because of what you've done as Jacob, which you were supposed to do as a good thing, tons of people are now no longer getting the medicines they need because the market has gotten so shot. And then so Evie now in this mission is trying to solve this problem by collecting the supplies and the medicines, obviously with urgency, because these poor street urchins, as they're called in the mission, are dying. Yeah, we're just destroying more lampposts for
Yes.
the trophy,
Yeah,
I
of course,
suppose.
because this is important.
So in short, we're basically, fixing something that our brother did wrong here in this mission, or anyway, that
Yeah, not
he
wrong.
had a certain impact on the world that had
Not wrong.
unintended
That is
consequences.
the thing.
But
Yeah.
it's an interesting point. An interesting point comes up here because it's finally an action that you do, and it's not what it doesn't have the desirable effect. But the action per se was not necessarily wrong, right?
Exactly.
But how
Not
does the
necessarily
game...
wrong, but it's kind of in the middle.
That's the
Whether
thing,
it was
like
right
every
or wrong.
time you do what's asked of you, or Jacob does what's asked of him, for instance, without spoiling too much, there's another key mission where he has to destroy a Templar who is like one of the main bankers, which is like he has to take out this horrible Templar guy. He does so, but then because then it creates this horrible inflation situation, because now no one trusts the bank and all the banks are in total chaos, which was also not the desired result that you had hoped for, even though you were doing what was supposed to be a good thing, which I think is an interesting...
So it's a returning thing for him.
Exactly, for the dynamic between Jacob and Evie.
Right.
But it's
and
also
their
very,
agency.
it's also very interesting within the historical process, right? Because apparently the game doesn't reward you for everything that you do, but some things, it takes account that some actions might have side effects that you cannot think of.
Exactly.
But then there is the question of whether, because by default I think at least this game has something that's clearly good and something that's clearly bad. What are you doing?
I hijacked the cart right in front of where I needed to be.
Nice.
That's nice.
Ta-da!
It's interesting that this mission is called Lady with the Lamp, while you have been destroying quite a few lamps. I don't think there's a lamp left to
Lamps
hold
like
for the
this?
lady.
Oops! Oops!
Yeah, that was not a lamp.
Poor lamplighters, they did
Oops.
so much effort.
Oops! Lamp!
Yep.
Oops!
So it's called Lady with the Lamp because that's the nickname of Florence Nightingale, right?
Oh, is it?
She was called that in a piece, an editorial piece in the, I think in a newspaper during the Crimean War, and there's also how she's depicted in a very famous poem on her.
So apparently there are things that can go wrong despite our agency, despite our actions, or because of our actions, and they're not for us to control. But in the end, we do control them,
Yeah.
which removes from the historical process once again and focuses too much on you, on the player.
And it's interesting again, the end of this scene was where Evie Fry is asking like, okay, well, you know, this was great with the medicine, but is this a permanent solution? To which Florence Nightingale replies that obviously not, but she will start petitioning the government, you know, to get laws in place so that there's regulation for medicine, etc. Which is not what she was actually doing. Like if you look at the historical accounts, obviously she wrote on nursing and sanitation and so on. There's nothing really about her, like, you know, going into politics and you know, but it sort of gives people a flavor of her as a historical character, and again, so what Evie does now is like a temporary solution to a problem, to which then again Florence will find like a long-term solution.
Yeah. Like every quest giver, main actor in the game, like Darwin and like Marx and.
Kitty is being a little...
Okay, we are done with this quest, I presume.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
let's move to more
Yeah, sorry that it
general
last for a
discussion.
There was a time going also. Do you want to just do some more driving around while we wrap things up?
Yeah, to look for more glitches. What choices actually need more?
All right. So, speaking overall, what's the relation that we have as players with historical characters that we've been seeing in this game?
I feel like a lot of times we're sort of their muscle while they're the brains, right? Or we're sort of a temporary solution while they take care of a more permanent long-term solution. So we're like, oh, something needs to be done. It needs to be done now. We have the climbing, the fighting skills or whatever. We'll do it while you think of the grand plan and you keep on doing the big picture stuff.
Yep.
Random trophy.
What?
Yep.
So I think that's the main feeling I get about our role in this game. Besides what I spoke
As
about
characters,
already.
yes, but as players, that's of course. So how do we as players? I mean, it's different, of course, from the characters. So the characters, we are definitely their muscle. But what is it if you as a player encounter one of these historical characters? What do they inspire in you? What do you learn about them? That's
personally, that's from a gamer point of view. I had a closer. I felt closer to Da Vinci in AC2.
Why?
Because there's a lot more quests with him, and I don't know. I felt more like I was collaborating than that I was being his muscle. Kill the criminals or scare the bullies. Just go stand there.
Okay.
Because Da Vinci also occurs in multiple games, right? Or
Yeah, I think it's
AC2,
AC2, and then Brotherhood, and what's the second X-Pac 4-2? I
that's,
don't remember.
Let me think. It's in Istanbul.
No, that's the first. It's still Italy. Anyway,
Revelations. Assassin's Creed
Revelations, exactly.
That is in Istanbul, or actually Constantinople.
Oh, okay. Now, anyway, I felt more, I don't know, I felt closer to his character, and that probably is because I did, I don't know, more missions together with him, and using his inventions. I don't know, it felt more connected.
So when we actually were preparing this, Scylla made a good point, right? About this sort of, about the characters that are in the game, in terms of there being DLC people, basically add-on characters. Because Da Vinci in Assassin's Creed 2 and other games was an integral part of the game. It was not something that that was like an option. It wasn't DLC, basically. Well, I think all the characters that we see here, Darwin, and well, maybe not Bell, of course, but others are, I think, DLC, or are they not?
I think it relates to the question, what's the appeal of having them in there, right? So you make a game, and for whatever reason, for reasons of authenticity or for whatever, you decide to put in actual historical figures.
Well, not for reasons of authenticity, of course, because Bell is definitely not historically authentic. You know, you could argue about Marx and Darwin.
Why do you need these characters to be in there? And if you just need them as a side thing, what is the flavor that it is added, and why can't this thing be a core thing?
I don't know.
But it needs to be a DLC thing.
I really have the feeling that it's historical tourism, and that just as you're expecting to see, you know, the Big Ben in here, or a Whitechapel, or Coventry Garden, you're also expecting to see some of those, you know, big names from Victorian period London.
Waterloo Station.
So that is the Darwins, that is the Bells, that is to some extent the Marxes.
I personally found it enjoyable to sort of run into them in this setting, and I found it interesting to see, like, obviously the first time you see the quests or the missions, to see what kind of situations they come up with, like what you have to do. But one of the things we've been talking about was that if you don't actually already know the character, the historical character, before you play the game, like, there's no real incentive to learn who they are.
No.
So one of the examples we didn't know was the policeman that's in the game, that's your associate in the game, who's called Frederick Aberline, or Freddy. Like, if you have no idea who he is, the game will not teach you, unless you go into the encyclopedia, obviously.
And even then, it's not that.
And even then, you won't know. So only because we looked it up, we realized that he was actually very instrumental in solving working on the Jack the Ripper case, which the Syndicate didn't really clue us in on, except that he's like this funny undercover cop.
I think we, in some cases, we run
Now, in the
fandom-
stream, Gingery Gamer says, agreed on the historical tourism thought. The game could be accomplished with generic stand-ins.
Yeah, yeah, I agree on that, and that's one of the things. Like, if you have a story like Bloodborne, for example, let's use Bloodborne because it's an excellent game, right?
Yes.
Bloodborne accomplishes similar things in a much better way than Assassin's Creed Syndicate does, with characters that are not real, in settings that are not real. In this case, the only thing that makes... So we are running into some fundamental Assassin's Creed problems here, like what's wrong with the specific franchise, but there is no way for this game to be relatable, because we cannot really relate with the characters. Not exactly, especially if you don't know the Assassin's Creed lore, you cannot really relate what's going on. And one of the ways to make the game relatable is to just introduce random encounters that will, for someone will be, oh, I know that, I've seen that somewhere on the TV one night that I was just browsing through channels. And it's it doesn't, in the end, it doesn't really add up for the person who wants to go in depth, because the more in depth that you go into the game, the more things you see that are missing from there. And
maybe
that makes
one of our stream listeners is disagreeing with you a little bit on that, because Alex Augustus says, I loved to see the Queen. I guess seeing historical people makes you feel like a more important person in the game.
Yeah, Victoria.
Yeah, but again, it
like
makes it relatable. It makes you feel, because the narrative is not that relatable. It doesn't use historical figures to enrich the narrative. It doesn't use historical figures to squeeze like history out of it and make it actually historical.
Just like a visiting tourist then.
Yeah,
look,
it's
it's
just
there.
there. Oh look, yeah, and it's
No,
the
but
only way to make it enjoyable.
It's touristic in the sense that, like, I have to admit, like I said before, I really enjoyed running into the characters and finding out, what they would, what would they teach you now or talk about now. I found it very enjoyable. My main concern was that if you don't already know the character, if you're not like, oh yeah, that's Darwin, him of the natural selection evolution theories. If you don't already know that to begin with, he means nothing to you.
No.
And
his
you
quest
let's
lose a
link that
lot of
idea of
value.
being a tourist to also being an agent.
Yeah.
So what type of agent is a tourist?
Yeah, but that's the issue. Like, tourism is set in stereotypes and sort of, again, if you think about this essentialism, right? So it's the same. If you go to Paris, you have to have been at the Eiffel Tower. It doesn't even matter if you enjoy it.
No.
You have to have been there. You
No,
know?
but also in
Which
terms
is
of
the
as a
same with
tourist.
these
So,
characters.
think about tourists nowadays. What sort of impact do they have on society and culture?
not
Income.
yeah.
I don't know.
Not on the
Income and feeling like you're sharing your culture with.
Not
No,
necessarily.
but
stuff
also
like
the
that.
Disneyfication of culture, of course. I
Yeah.
think that's what Angus is
Yeah.
referring to.
Also gentrification
Maybe.
of specific areas that needs to be more appealing to tourists.
But that's how you end up in these stereotypes, which is how this game is really, right? So
Yeah, it's
all
really
the characters
stereotypical.
are very essentialist. Same with the locations, right? You have to have Westminster Abbey. You have to have the Tower of the Big Ben. You
And
know,
there's
you have to
nothing-
have these iconic landmarks, even though you can't do anything really with them.
No, but that's not a wrong thing that you can't
I'm
do
not
anything
saying
with
it's
them.
wrong. I'm just saying it's very essential.
No, but because Aris was actually saying that this is one of the, what do you say exactly? Critical points or
Fundamental issues of
Fun-
Assassin's Creed series.
Yeah, okay. So yeah.
No, but I think it is a problem in the sense that there are two different levels that we can see that, right? So one, we can see it in our actors and events discussion here, and what's the role of actors in specific events in history, and the other is the narrative of the game. So when we are dealing with the narrative of the game, specifically, we see that these actors do not really matter, right? The narrative of the game might have some issues of relatability, and as you say, it makes you feel better that you've seen them. but it makes you feel better because while they do not offer in the narrative, that makes for a weak narrative, that makes for a weak story. So this game uses this, we can even say gimmicky tactics
Shallow.
to make it
Yeah.
more relatable, to make it better. It's in the end you can even say that it's cheap because it doesn't go in
But
depth.
does it make for a good history, though? So,
No.
I mean,
But
no,
no,
history doesn't have to be a good story.
No,
so
I'm claiming
But
that
it's a
this
good
in
could
this,
still
I'm
be
claiming that
agents running around in the world and just as failing to have a larger impact on the world.
no, that's why I use the comparison with Bloodborne, because what I claim is that this is also bad storytelling in this case. It's not only that if we just see the narrative, it's bad storytelling. If we see it from an actors and events perspective, like we are checking the agency and how the game deals with the agency, it runs into the contradiction of this game portrays these characters as being extremely important for the development of today's society, while in the game they have basically no agency. So they are agents, super important agents with no agency.
Yeah, but also not naming what they are actually
Doing, yeah. So again, it's evidence both of bad storytelling, but also of contradicting yourself in terms of the historical perspective that you have as a game, if you wish to have historical perspective.
So I think that, we know preparation before this, we actually introduced a new term, right? So in a way, is what you're saying is Syndicate suffers some sort of ludo historical dissonance. So what we're playing, it actually doesn't have any sort of bearing on story and on history in reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you can argue obviously about what's the value of that, right? I mean, I'm not saying that, for instance, the lack of agency for these actors is necessarily
Interestingly, I mean,
horrible
this
for
is
the
really
game,
what
right? It
Assassin's
can
Creed is
still
about
be
in the end,
enjoyable,
right?
etc., etc. And I think to a lot of people for whom this might be sort of like a taste of history, it's not really a big problem.
No, it's
exactly.
not.
This was my point a couple of minutes ago.
No, but that's why I'm comparing it with Bloodborne, a game with good storytelling. Because if you change the setting of Assassin's Creed Syndicate and put in there random characters, which makes sense in the story of the game, but they're not real figures, do you still get an enjoyable game? And apparently, if you think that all these characters are the only thing that these characters offer is the fact that, oh, I know this guy, then it doesn't offer anything.
Gingery Gamer also says in our stream chat, but the game is also very selective about which figures were important for the day. It ignores the many others who were important but who aren't important to us now. That's, I think, a very, very good point. What you see, which is, I think, fascinating in this game, is that all the big people we know now, Charles Darwin, Marx, all those figureheads of history, we're on their side.
Yeah.
And their opponents or minor accomplices, the minor accomplices are not in there, and their opponents, all those who oppose their ideas, for example, they are seen as basically they're either with the Templars or they're just impeding your progress in missions, right? There's this early Darwin mission when you have to save him from an argument with one of his academic peers, and he's just this guy is just completely pushed to the sidelines of the game, as he is also in history. I forgot his name now. We'll look it up.
And pushed into the sidelines of our memory.
There is a very important point.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's just what happens because he's just he's just like an obstacle on a mission. That's what he is.
There is a very important point on that this game doesn't give you the concept of the process of development, because I had this argument once with a professor in Greece who was claiming that when we're talking about script, about writing, we can even say that some guy or some girl woke up one day and said, oh look, I have this great idea, I can write and I can convey messages by putting things on clay, for example, and boom, writing was invented. And this game has the same notion, that there's Bell, for example, who is a great inventor, and he's like, I have this amazing idea, telephone, you know, and there is all the other people who were antagonists with Bell, and they had similar ideas about creating similar machines of conveying voice messages.
Yeah, but history is written by the vicar. It's, you know, that's just how it goes.
No,
Yeah, but I think-
that's
Is
how
that how it goes, though? Because that's-
yeah, but
that's
if you're a
not how it
scientist,
really
you
goes.
don't want this to be.
No.
You don't want this to be the case. But in this game,
Yes.
there are no parallel processes which led Bell to
Yeah.
create telephone
But-
or Darwin to think about this thing,
Yeah.
right? And that's problematic because it makes you think that
This
one
just
actor,
happened.
yeah, Bell created telephone. That's
Well,
it.
that's the same. The same way that the historical actors themselves are essentialized, the process of progress is essentialized as well.
Yeah.
To the end result.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't become a whole long sort of scientific battle between various persons with various theories of evolution who are trying to prove this, who spend months and years on fieldwork,
but it's
who
not a
finally
scientific
write
game.
papers. It's
No,
not
no,
about
no.
that. It's not about
But
that
it could create
line
a
of
better-
progress. It's only about the end
So
result.
I
could
don't
it create
know
that
if it
as
could
well, still
create a
being
better
enjoyable?
game if you put it in this way.
I think if the budget that Assassin's Creed runs, yeah, I think it could have done it. If you run with such a budget and with this kind of knowledgeable people in terms of creating a game, yeah, I think you could definitely do it. If you didn't push yourself in releasing one game per year, but that's a completely different story,
Okay, yes.
right?
But it is also very important in terms of pacing, in terms of that you don't want the game to be, you know, boring or
No,
or-
but again, you have played Dark Souls or Bloodborne. You see that it does. These games are not essentialistic. You don't know what's good or bad. You don't know what's happening. You are part of the progress. You're part of the process, and your actions matter in the process way more. Even though the game is less about your specific agency.
But
But
I don't
in
know.
reality, that's not how Assassin's Creed works at all, of course, Avis,
I
because
think that's the
we are
difference between
people in
Bloodborne
modern
and
times
fictional.
stuck into a machine called the Animus,
Yeah,
and we're only reliving memories here, right? So
yeah, fair
these
enough.
are the memories of our ancestors, and in reality, there's nothing that we could even change to the course of history because it already happens. In fact, it's encoded in our genes. That's the sort of the paradox of the interactive past that is Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
the premise of the game actually.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's the core responsible for, say, if we want to talk about any like lack of agency, that would be, you know, the explanation for it. I think. Should we slowly wrap?
Let's wrap up. This was a good.
It was actually a good
It was
wrap up.
a good conversation. I think there are still way more stuff that we can talk about Assassin's Creed and agency, but we can save that for a follow-up stream on that.
There will be other Assassin's Creed games.
And there will be other Assassin's Creed streams as well by default. For those of you who don't know, we have a YouTube channel where we upload all this stuff. So you can see in the following days, you can rewatch the stream if you found it interesting, or watch our previous Assassin's Creed stream on Authenticity.
With Tara Copplestone.
Tara
as our
Copplestone.
Fantastic guest.
Yes. We also have a conference coming up,
Yes,
which is probably the most important thing right now.
Yes.
So,
the Interactive Pasts conference.
yes.
Be there.
So on the 4th and 5th of April,
Yep.
the Interactive Past Conference will take place at Leiden University, Faculty of Archaeology. We have all sorts of people coming.
I assume that those of you watching the stream are totally familiar with this, but maybe people who check it later on YouTube might not.
True.
So we have Tara Copplestone coming, Andy Reinhardt and many more, Eric Champion, and so many people coming. It will be very interesting, it will be very fun. You can also, if you cannot make it, you can watch it from this channel live and later on YouTube as well, because we're going digital as always.
So it's a
It
conference
is more
about
real if you're there, you know,
Yes.
as a streamer, digitally.
Exactly.
It is a conference obviously about video games and archaeology,
Oh yes.
because that's what we do. Right. We also have more exciting announcements coming up somewhere in the next month.
very much linked to the conference.
Very much linked to the conference, but we'll keep it a bit low profile for
We'll
now.
keep that a
We're
secret for
avoiding
now.
spoilers. Let's
We're avoiding
just keep
spoilers.
It
It
is
at
very exciting stuff.
We have a new series on our fantastic website, which Crane curates, and you can see our amazing Games We Dig new series about games we dig.
It's fun, eh? It's fun. Yeah, it's very.
It's very funny.
Yes.
You can like us on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter. You can like us on Facebook.
On Pinterest.
On Pinterest, we have Pinterest.
We have so many things now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We obviously people can even subscribe to the Twitch
Yeah.
channel, subscribe to our
Sure.
YouTube channel. It's
And more than just
crazy.
following us or liking us, please, reach out to us as well, because we always like to know what you think about these issues.
Yes. And also, you can always suggest ideas for new streams, for the Games We Dig series, for research, for whatever. Because the interactive past conference means that we are also very interactive.
Plus, the call for
Everybody
papers for that is still open until January 31st.
So if you want to submit your paper, you still have about 15 days
Yeah.
to submit your abstract, 200 word abstract, let's say.
Also, thank you for watching and talking on the chat and being with us.
Yes.
We thought this was actually a really, really fun
Yes.
streaming the past.
Yes, for sure. And if you see this later on YouTube, hello, future people.
Okay.
Hello, future.
Future
Hello,
people.
future.
All right.
All right. Bye,
So
everyone.
I'm signing off as well from Stanford University all the way in San Francisco,
All right.
and I'll be in touch with you.
Then
soon.
we will also say goodbye to the past, which is
Goodbye
the
to the
time zone that Angus is in.
Yes.
Yes, I'm a past person at the moment.
Goodbye
I still-
to the past and to the
The
future.
whole Saturday ahead of me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well,
All right.
enjoy it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Till next time.